Going. Always takes a second. Going. Oh, there we go. And I hear the audio is good right away because it popped right up. Awesome. Welcome everybody to day 2 for our live Q&A. We have some amazing speakers with us again today for all the questions that you have, and we're going to get to know them a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by letting them introduce themselves, say hi, and just tell us a little bit about themselves so you guys can get to know them if you haven't watched their video yet, and all that fun stuff. So, Mina, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So, hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Minna, and I'm a pattern maker and also designer. And I'm kind of specialized in all kinds of sculptural patterns and textures. And I'm very much into doing experiments in half scale. So I always work with my little half scale dress form.
Where did you get your half scale? I'm just curious because I know sometimes they're hard to find, and I've never seen one that looks like that.
Oh, this is from an Italian company, but I think they also ship to other countries. Called
Yeah.
Mia Manichino. I can maybe write the name in the Facebook group or something.
Yeah.
Or
It's
here.
all I know people are commonly looking for half scales, and sometimes they're really hard to find. So
Yeah, I've been very happy with this one. I also have a quarter scale dress form, but that's like
awesome.
getting very fiddly.
Yeah. Awesome. And Charlie.
Hello, hello. My name is Charlie. I am a YouTuber who does a fair amount of sewing. I kind of specialize in the learning process and self-drafting, freehanding garments, especially. I mostly freehand my stuff right onto fabric, but also I do a lot of manipulation of commercial patterns to get the stuff you want out of them.
Always good to have and know. Awesome. And then Mia, you've been having a little issues. Are you here?
I finally got it together. Yes, I am here. What did I miss? I'm sorry. What did I miss?
Yeah, we're just having you introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about yourself so that people know who you are. So in case they haven't quite gotten to your session yet, that they could even possibly ask you some questions.
Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Mia, the owner of the Couture Beauty and the Sewing Academy, Couture Beauty and Sewing Academy. And my session today is about Lutterloh patterns, the Lutterloh system. And so it's a great system for beginner pattern makers, individuals who are intimidated by traditional pattern making. So my specialty is beginners, newbies, adults, and children, teaching them how to sew, and how to sew garments is my specialty, but teaching them how to sew. I'm here in shop, so you hear sergers and customers and all that going on in the background. I'm sorry. Let me know if it's too loud and I'll move. But yeah, so that's what I do. I'm excited to answer any questions that you may have about Lutterloh and how it works, because it's a great system. It is perfect for anyone who wants to kind of do or try an alternative to traditional patterns.
Yeah. It's a system I've always been intrigued by. I've never been able to test it out myself. So maybe this will be the year I break down and get it.
Absolutely. It's like magic. It really is like magic.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and I'm Christina Hadley Dyke. I'm the host of this summit, and I am a digital pattern maker. So I help people learn how to make their clothes on the digital forum in Adobe Illustrator and Clo 3D. I've worked in Affinity Designer and Seamly 2D as well. So we already have a few questions coming in. One from YouTube was, does drape really behave the same at 50% as it does at 100%? Nina, you want to take that one? Oh, you're still on mute.
Sorry, I have noisy neighbors, so I keep the mute on. So draping or
Probably like the drape of the finished garment. Does it,
In
when
half
you're
scale.
looking at it in half scale, does it really
Yeah, you have
show?
to, like, if you're doing something that's like mid-weight in half scale, it like behaves like a heavyweight fabric in full scale. So you always have to get a little bit lighter weight than what you're going to be using in full scale because it
Awesome.
tends to become a little bit stiffer.
Yeah. I've never thought to do that because I was like, it does behave a little bit differently, but I've never thought to do a
Yeah.
lighter weight. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I have a couple of like different weights muslins, so I always
Yeah.
pick the one that works with the project.
Awesome. And we had a question come in from our VIPs. Will the recording of last night's session seeing the pattern maker design analysis be available? Yes, it is available, and it's still available both on the Facebook group and in the YouTube group. I have not gotten it up into the VIP section yet because Zoom was taking an exceptionally long time to process the video, and I wanted to go to bed at a reasonable hour last night. So it has not gotten up um, on the VIP course yet, but you should still be able to watch it on both YouTube and on Facebook. Awesome. And I'm trying to make sure we are live on Facebook. It says we're all good in the back end, but I'm not sure it's true in the front end. Anyways, we also just had Sheridith join us. Sheridith, you want to give yourself a quick introduction so that everybody can know who you are and get some questions going?
Yes, hello everybody. I am Sheridith. I own projectorsewing.com and also teach projector sewing on YouTube. And that's really what I do. I teach people how to transfer all their paper patterns to using digital and using a projector to cut out your sewing patterns. And I'm so happy to be here and part of this summit.
Yes. Awesome. Um, I don't see any questions coming in right now. So, another question I have for Mina actually is how do you like working in the quarter scale? I always feel like that would be way too tiny to want to work with. I'm just curious. Oh, you're still on mute.
All right. When I working in quarter scale, it's better to like work on something that doesn't have a lot of complicated seams. Like for example, the skirt I'm teaching in the summit, maybe that's starting to be a little bit too many seams. And also, especially if you have curved seams, quarter scale is not like the best option
Yeah.
because they become really small and very complicated. But sometimes if I don't want to use a lot of fabric for a little experiment, then quarter scale is very good because you need really small pieces of fabric.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I was just I was thinking it would be really tiny and tight, but I'm like,
Action?
but they make Barbie stuff like pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. This is quarter scale, so
It's the size of your hand.
yeah, pretty much. So you can imagine sewing curved seams with this one.
Super tiny.
Yeah, but I also do Barbie clothes, so
Do you
I
use
think
your quarter scale for the?
no, they are
No.
even smaller.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, that would still be a little bit more. We do have a question on YouTube saying, Clo3D, is it complicated to get the software to do fancy stuff like stitch the pattern together and show a finished product? It is not that complicated. It does take a while. Like with any software, you have to kind of get used to it. There are pros and cons to it. And then there's always the quirks that you have to learn of how do you tell it to sew the garments together. But once you kind of learn those basic things, you can get a fun garment together pretty fast. And then doing the animations and the renderings. And my favorite is the exploding garment. I always think those are fun to see. I'm sure most people have seen those on social media where the garment is in its 2D form somewhere flat on the screen, and then it like curves into the 3D form of that garment, and then it can explode back out. Those are always super, super fun to make, and it's not too complicated to make in Clo 3D. It's just a series of saving and then reopening them in a very specific order. We did have a VIP question come in, I think. Oh no, it just says somebody saying, hi, hello, welcome. And we do have a question to Sheridith. What is a projector? Maybe they mean what type of projector or something.
Sure. Sometimes people who aren't aware of projector sewing are like, well, what's the special projector? And really, there is no special projector. It's the same type of projector you use to watch movies. It's a home entertainment projector. And we just use a projector to project your pattern directly onto your fabric. So you don't have to print off a pattern at all. You can just shine it directly onto the fabric. And then some people like to trace it out, and I like to just cut directly from the projected image onto the fabric. So it skips the middleman, is what I like to say, of the paper pattern, and you're just going directly to the fabric. Great question. Because I know a lot of people think, oh, it's a special projector that you have to go buy. And no, it's lots of you might already have a projector that could work at home. But there are also lots of budget friendly, all the way up to really expensive projectors, and you get to decide. But they all work for using it to cut out sewing patterns.
Yeah. There's one company that I know was like Vanco. They at one point were having like this is a sewing projector type um sales pitch, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's mostly a sales pitch now when you see like the projector companies saying it's a sewing projector. Well, any projector can be a sewing projector when used with the right tools
Yeah.
on this. So there are a few that learned that sewists like to use them, and so they use them in their marketing a little bit sometimes now. Say it's a sewing projector. Yeah.
And is Ditto the only one that's like truly just a sewing projector?
Yes, so Ditto is the only commercial uh, projector for sewing, and they're their whole own ecosystem on there. So just keep that in mind. They have their own pattern file type, and so they have their own ecosystem. They're their only commercial system, and they came out after projector sewing had kind of already started and gotten big.
So, we had a question from Millie. Yesterday, Charlie mentioned reuse stores. I think they were called. Does anyone know if there are any similar stores in Scandinavia? I know Charlie has an amazing resource.
Let me check my creative reuse spreadsheet in the international tab, because we do have an international tab on that spreadsheet. I just haven't gotten as many submissions for it. Let's see. I've got Belgium, Austria, Finland. I see one option in Finland, France, Germany, one option in the Netherlands, a few in Switzerland. Looks like that's what I've got up in the European area right now.
So maybe not super, super close, but kind of there. Um, then we have so there are so many techniques for drafting patterns. How do I know I'm using the right technique? Oh, that is a very interesting question. I bet every single one of us would have a different answer. Who wants to start it?
Well,
I think you'll know that you're using the right technique when you make your mock-up, when you make your muslin is going to tell you if it fits, if you're off somewhere, and that's one. And then I also think you'll know that you're using the right technique if it makes sense to you. So if as you are drafting, the process makes sense to you and it's not like super like, oh my God, I just don't get this, then it works for you. Because as with anything, there's 100 billion ways to draft a pattern. There's the technical way that you have to draft it, and then there's workarounds where someone will say, "Oh, I don't do that. I do this," and you're like, "Wait, what? You can do that?" You know what I mean? So I think when you make your muslin, and how your muslin turns out will determine if the way that you're drafting that pattern works for you and your style and your specific way of drafting. I don't do that. I do this, and you're like, "Wait, what? You can do that?" You know what I mean? So
Sorry.
I think when you make your muslin, and how your muslin turns out will determine if the way that you're drafting that pattern works for you and your style. That's like Twilight Zone-ish, right?
It stopped. I don't know where it started coming from,
I
but
think I think there's a delay, and Catherine just came in, and so I think there's a delay, and that was just the playback.
got it. Yeah, I thought it was coming from one of my screens. I'm like, they're all paused on my end. Sorry. You were did you have were I got so distracted. Did you finish?
Yeah. I was
Okay.
done. I just think your muslin is going to help to tell you. Hi,
Yeah.
Catherine. Welcome.
Mina, do you want to talk or
Yeah,
do you want to
I
give
was
your answer?
I was just going to say the same thing that unfortunately it's probably not the answer you want to hear, but just have to try different methods and choose the one that creates the most fitting muslin.
Anyone else want to give an answer for that?
I'm just echoing what everyone says. I mean, I'm more towards the beginner than all you guys for pattern drafting, but I already know, even in just making pattern alterations, there are many ways to accomplish the same end. And that's why sewing is such a creative process. And we're all creative, and we may come at things from different angles and different methods. And as long as you're getting a result that fits and functions well, especially if you're self-drafting and it's just for you, the process, don't get bogged down by the process. Let's see, are you getting a result that you're happy with? And then go back and tweak your technique so it's better. And obviously, we have to start with learning some technique, right? So, learn a technique, see how it works for you. And as you practice it more, I think everyone can say, oh, well, now I choose this method over this method. And as you learn more methods, don't get bogged down by, is this the right way to do it? You know?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100% of just because it works for one person doesn't mean it works for the other person. There's so many different ways. And also so many different systems. We have at least probably 5 different systems of ways of drafting in this room alone. And it just kind of
Yeah.
keeps going
And
like that.
I think there are people out there that like to be the technique police. And they say, that's not the way to do it. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to ignore that and realize there are multiple methods to get it that are correct and that do work. And some people like to get on their high horse and say, you can't do it that way. That's not the way it's done in industry, or that's not the way. And, you have to figure out what is your end goal? What are you working for? I mean, obviously, if you're working to go to manufacturing, it's going to be different than if you're just self-drafting your patterns on how you do things, right?
Yeah, for sure. We had another question come in for Sheridith. I use a projector. Find a white surface is better than a green cutting mat. I have. Do you recommend any particular white cutting mat, or maybe I need to get a brighter projector?
So the thing to keep in mind is that your cutting mat, you only use it and look at it when you're calibrating. and then your fabric is over the mat. So the color of the mat doesn't really matter except for during calibration. And if you find the color is not easy to see the lines, one, try making your lines thicker on the calibration page, or you can even use a piece of paper over it and just measure lines on there. I don't say you have to get a new mat. I have a purple mat and it works just fine. I also have a yellow side, which is lighter, and I don't like the yellow side because it's too bright to my eyes when I'm calibrating. So it really is personal preference. The only thing I say is don't get one of those clear translucent mats because they they blur the lines and it's really hard to see because they're hitting that clear mat and then the calibration lines just get really fuzzy. So don't get a translucent mat. And then other than that, it's personal preference, but keep in mind you're only going to see the matte color when you are calibrating. Other than that, it's going to be your fabric that is on there. And you're only going to be checking calibration before you cut. So if you have a permanent location, you calibrate once and you keep it up there, and then you can lay your fabric out. And what I do is if your mat is dark or you're having a hard time seeing it on a mat, lay some white fabric out there and just check your calibration square with a ruler really fast. Make sure it's accurate. And if you did calibration already, that's all you need to do. And then you have your fabric out there. And keep in mind with your fabric, you can project on the wrong side, so you're not seeing all the patterns. So keep that in mind that you don't have to project on the patterned side of the fabric. Unless you're trying to match patterns or be particular about it, you can flip the fabric over on there. So matte color is not a big deal except for the translucent thing on there.
Yeah, that's very true. I had a translucent to start with and I was like, you're right, it was terrible.
Yeah, that's my only thing. Don't get the translucent matte. It's hard because those are at the craft stores and they're easy and they're a little bit cheaper sometimes. And so people, I'm like, well, it just makes it harder. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. We had a question come in that it says if someone has limited experience learning the steps of fashion design, for example, fashion illustration, etc., what are the steps to progress step by step getting better and progressing as a fashion designer? I know Annette LearnUp, she had a presentation yesterday. She has tons and tons of fashion advice. Does anyone here have specific fashion advice that they'd want to answer that question for illustrations or? Yeah, we're more all in the pattern making side of things. I take other people's beautiful pictures and make them reality. It's kind of how I always put that. But you ask me to draw a pretty little picture, I'm like, can I pattern it and show it to you in Clo? That's my answer for that. So I would definitely check out Annette LearnUp. I know her session was yesterday, but you can still go to the Meet the Speakers page and follow her on all her socials, and definitely get in contact with her there because she would be happy. I'm sure she would have somebody who she can kind of help guide you into the right direction for that one. We also had a question, how do you know if size and scale is correct on a projector?
Okay, so how do we know if scale and size? That's the whole method called calibration. And sometimes when you're in the projector world, people think calibration is like calibrating the colors and things. It's different in sewing. It's the process of making sure that your projected image is square to your table and that it's accurate size. And there are two programs that you can mainly use now that make it really easy, and one is free. And I talk about it all on my website in the Get Started on how you can calibrate. And that's what makes sure that the image is accurate scale and size.
The other thing I want to add to that is you also have to make sure that if you're patterning from scratch or altering your patterns, it's very similar. You still need to make sure your pattern is accurate. the one very big difference with digital and hand drafting is in digital, you can scroll in so that a centimeter is actually like 5 inches, or, it's like massively different. So you do need to make sure that doing some double checking and some everything to make sure everything is the correct size as well before you get to that calibration site. We had another question come in, and I lost my screen moved, so let me find it. Given a wedding dress by a costume designer, needs a 6 inches added at the bust and hip. Back is corseted. Holy heck, is this intermediate level sewer stumped? I am drafting gussets, elastic inserts. And you only thought you were hemming the dress. Ooh, yeah, that's rough. And it's already a corseted back and it needs 6 more inches. That is definitely a anyone have any tips for her right off the top of their head? Because that is a rough alteration for sure.
Yeah,
I hope
that's
you're
really
getting paid
hard.
well for that.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Especially a wedding dress if you have like lace insets over it or anything like that, causing other problems. We have a question for Mina. Is there a book that shows all the sleeve styles since the past to nowadays?
Well, I haven't actually seen any book that's only about sleeve patterns because, yeah, I've been going through so many pattern books online. I'm a hoarder. But like the past old ones, the historical, there are very good historical sewing books. Janet Arnold, something.
Yep.
Yeah,
I use her a lot. She has a
yeah,
lot of really great base information.
yeah. I've been wanting to buy those books, but you can only get them from one store in London, I think.
Yeah.
But
Although
you
they're
could,
doing reprints of her stuff now, aren't they?
yeah, those
Yeah.
ones.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think the older ones are only sold used and cost a lot of money. But
Awesome.
other than that, sleeve patterns I've only seen like mixed in to like different, like the whole dress patterns or something. But yeah, but I do have my own sleeve pattern book. But that's not historical sleeves.
Yeah, but you have some fun sleeves. All your
Yeah,
three-dimensional sleeves are awesome.
yeah, I invent sleeves. And sometimes people ask me what they're called, but I don't know. I just came up with it now.
Got to start naming them.
Yeah.
Get your name out there. Get people knowing it.
Yeah.
Mia, I was always wondering, did you first start with the Lutterloh system or did you try drafting first and then move in more into the Lutterloh system?
No, I didn't start with Lutterloh because I personally I enjoy traditional patterning. I like it, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Although I hate math, I really enjoy it. Like oxymoron, I hate math, hate it, hate it, hate it. But I thoroughly enjoy traditional pattern making. All of the lines, all of the I like the mumble jumble, the scribbled, all of that chaos. And then it turns out to be this pattern. I like that. I like the drafting of the lines and all that. But I started out traditional and I still do both. It just depends on the mood that I'm in, but I still do both. Lutterloh is it's a completely different world. It's just completely different. It's nothing like traditional pattern making at all. And they have their own patterns. Your book comes with over 240 sheets in it,
Yeah.
and all of those sheets are patterns. So you can mix and match and however you want, and you're only using bust and hip measurements to draft the patterns on the picture. So with Lutterloh, you're going to take the image that you see, right? Let's just say you want a hack. You like this top from this sheet and the pant from this sheet. You're going to put them together and make a jumper. You kind of got to have a basic understanding of basic garment construction to be able to do that. Or if you want to keep them separate, you can keep them separate, but you're drafting out dots. So everything's already pre-done for you pretty much with Lutterloh. You're just drafting out dots according to the measurement of your body or whoever you're making the pattern for. You take that measurement. If the measurement is 5, you're going to line their tape measure up by the hip or waist, hip or bust measurement, depending on if you're working on a bodice or a pant, or the waistline that's on their pattern where the marking for the waistline. Anything above the waistline, even if it's a bodice that has like a peplum, anything above that waistline, you use the bust measurement. Anything below the waistline, even if it's a bodice, you use the hip measurement. So whatever that measurement is, you put you start your tape measure there, and then you measure out the number that's on the pattern. Measure out, make a dot. Go to the next line, measure out whatever that number says, make a dot. So you're making dots all over your paper. And when you finish, you take your rulers, you connect the dots, and then you have a pattern piece. So it's way different. Whereas with traditional pattern making, you're taking a billion measurements, then you are drafting out each measurement and sometimes crossing measurements and then truing that measurement and making an arm side or a slight curve or whatever you're doing. It's totally different. Lutterloh is totally different. So I do both. I like both. But Lutterloh is definitely for newbies. Definitely for newbies who want to customize a piece, who want to feel confident and comfortable in making, I don't know, a bodice with a larger belly. Like I have a larger belly. So making a bodice that's going to fit you with a larger belly, or making a pant that's going to fit you with, wider hips or fuller bottom. Whereas traditional pattern making, you kind of got to test that muslin. I mean, you have to test a muslin in Lutterloh too. You gotta test the fit as well. But in traditional pattern making, you're going to do draft your pattern out, and then let's see if this fits where we need to adjust and all that jazz. You still do that with Lutterloh. It's just a little less, I think. And that's why I say it's like magic, because it's amazing how you could have 3 different body types and use the same pattern, and it fits each type perfectly because it's going off of their bust and hip measurement. And you think, when you're so used to traditional pattern making, how is the bust and hip measurement going to make this top fit? Like for 3 different people, triple D, size A, size B cup. How is it going to fit all 3 perfectly? But it does. It's really amazing.
Awesome. Yeah,
I
I'm
have
I'm
to
definitely
try
curious
it.
to give it a try.
Yeah.
So, what were you saying, Mina?
Yeah, I have to try that sometime.
Yeah. So we have a few more questions come in. What file format for patterns to use when using a projector?
This is another question we get a lot. Really, you can use anything that's a digital pattern, even if it's a print at home pattern or an A0 large format file. You can use those. There's some workarounds that people in the community have created, so we can use those. But the ideal file that you're going to use is going to be labeled as projector file. And that means the designer has designed the file to be optimized to be viewed on a projector and followed some guidelines, hopefully, if it's a good one. But you can use, like I said, you can use any PDF pattern file type. There's just some workarounds or pre-work that you might have to do so that you can project it from your thing. But it's just a PDF file. That's what we're using. But if it says projector file, that means it's been a PDF that's optimized to be viewed on a projector. It's a single page. So it's just a PDF file.
Super, super quick, super easy. And then we have a question that for Lorianne. She's actually supposed to be here. She wasn't going to be able to make it until about now, so she'll hopefully be popping on shortly. But she showed her book and Measuring Made Easy with her 2 tapes. You can get that on her website. So if you go to the Meet the Speaker page or just click on the little world in her site, you can definitely go find that. I'm also very interested in her 2-sided measuring tape. I thought that is a brilliant idea. And I was like, I probably need one of those myself. Um, Let me get back up. It moved down. Curious what the day-to-day of Mina and Mia's businesses look like. Mina, you want to start that one?
Well, it's always different, and that's the way I like it because I don't like to be doing the same things every day. So I have like a theme for every day. Maybe some days are pattern making days, so I'm doing all my little pattern experiments or contents for like Instagram, or maybe I'm filming for YouTube, or preparing a tutorial for my blog. And then some other days are then sewing days. So then I'm going to be sewing everything. Then I'm going to this office space to do all computer work. So like yesterday I was there working on my computer, editing videos and answering emails. I get a lot of questions. And yeah, some days I go to the fabric store and maybe meet with a friend for lunch. So it's like that. Like now I have a project coming up with my painter friend. So she's going to paint top I'm going to be making in cork fabric. And the model is coming over for measurements on Thursday. And then I'm going to get started on the pattern. And I have some collaborations with my office colleagues. We're like taking pictures with my clothes, and she's like a bag designer. So all kinds of collaborations, meeting people, patterns, sewing. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, always something different and always in a hurry, running from one place to another.
Yeah. Important to time block your stuff a little bit. It sounds like you kind of do patterning days, sewing days, and
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. And Mia, you want to answer that one?
So, like I said, I'm the owner of the Couture Beauty and Sewing Academy, and I teach adults and children how to sew. So I teach adults and children how to sew online all over the world, Germany, Beijing, Vienna, throughout the United States, online. But then I also teach people in person and through my business. But I also am the director of education at a local quilt shop, which is where I am right now, in the shop in the store. And here I am over all of the education. So I curate all of the classes that my teachers teach: quilting, garment sewing, pattern making, long arm quilting, quilting on a domestic machine, English paper piecing, like all of the things. So I put the classes together for the teachers to teach, and the shop is a Bernina dealer. So there's Bernina sewing machines in here. Like, let's see if I can get y'all to see real quick. Can you see the shop?
Yeah.
All the machines and stuff. And so on Tuesdays, I'm normally in shop. The other days I work from home because again, I'm putting together all the curriculum and stuff for this particular store. And so I manage that and my personal teaching adults and children how to sew clothing and teaching Lutterloh and all of that. So it's a lot of fun. Two two different worlds, but they still play nice together. They're brother and sister, kind of, sort of. Two different worlds, but still the same field, same area, same thing. So it's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Awesome. We have another one. How do you add ease to the cap when it's too tight on the upper part of the bicep without altering the size of the upper cap? How do you add ease to the cap? So the question would be, is it too tight around your bicep and you need to widen your pattern? Because if you don't want any more height because you want either more set in, or if you want it to be a little bit more of the drop shoulder and you have a lower, like a t-shirt sleeve. Although if it's too tight around the bicep, I bet you're having it's much more in the set in phase. But I would try adding width to your sleeve. So you can leave your cap height the same. And I would also ask, the other question I would ask is, how does the cap of your armscye or the cap of your sleeve compare to the armscye measurement? I would want to look at those two measurements and kind of see how you can compare those two to see where we can manipulate it a little bit more. Does anyone else want to answer that one a little bit? Is too tight in the bicep. Yeah, so I would add width. So you can cut it right down the center and add a little bit of width and then recurve your sleeve. That is going to add a little bit more curvature up and around. So you might have to have a little bit more ease across your shoulder. That's why I also want to know what the two measurements are of your sleeve cap versus your armscye. Because we'd want to make sure that those still stay in a proportion that you want, because you obviously don't want to get a huge ruffled sleeve if you don't want a huge ruffled sleeve.
I think you can lower it as well from the top.
The cap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that way you reduce the amount when you're adding to the sides.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just, yeah, exactly. You can definitely do that as well. Without adding, yeah. So if it gets too thing there, do exactly what Mina said, is then start lowering your cap a little bit to get that finalized. I have my mom's Lutterloh book of patterns from the 60s or 70s, but I need to get a new tape measuring. Where would I be able to get a replacement?
So you're going to go to Lutterloh. Let me pull up that website. You're going to go to Lutterloh-patterns.com. Lutterloh-patterns.com, and tell them that you just want, let me see if I see just the tape measure. You only need the tape measure unless you want to buy a supplement book, of patterns, the current supplement to go with it. But that's where you're going to get the tape measure from. And they have two systems. They have the regular system, and then they have the plus size system. And if you have not watched my session yet, if you purchase anything, the system or anything on Lutterloh, and put in MIA10, MIA10, you'll get a discount. That's your discount code. So MIA10 is a discount code for anyone who wants to try Lutterloh or purchase it or whatever. But yeah, you can get your tape measure from there, because for everyone watching, you cannot use Lutterloh with a regular tape measure. They have, even though their tape measure looks like a regular tape measure, it's not. The measurements and everything that you need to be able to properly draft and make your dots to create the pattern is on their special made tape measure. It looks regular, it's not. And the yellow is regular, the regular size. I think it's small, extra small or whatever, to 1X, I think, or extra small to large. And then the blue, the plus size system, is 1X to 3X, something like that.
I didn't realize they had that many different systems. That's awesome.
Yeah, they have two systems, the regular and the plus size, but then they have a ton of supplement patterns. So you can get like this, our friend is saying they have their mom's, yes, I'll put that in the chat. They have their mom's system from, the vintage system. You can find some of the vintage patterns and just buy the supplement pack. The supplement pack is just going to be your pattern, your little pattern booklet. If you already have the system, which is the tape measure, which is really what you need. If you already have that, then you can just buy the supplement packs, which are the patterns, and they have a ton that you can go through, like a ton that you. And another good thing to do is estate sales. Anytime you see an estate sale, stop, because that's where I have found most of my vintage Lutterloh supplements at estate sales. So I grab all those, even if, I mean, I'm not the vintage type of girl, but I grab them anyway because you just never know if you want to hack something. Um, but yeah, Lutterloh has been around for a very long time. It's just now starting to gain traction and become really, really popular here in the States. But it's a German-based company, and it's been around for a very, very, very long time. You can again at estate sales you can find Lutterloh supplements from like the 80s, the 90s, 70s, so it's a lot of fun.
I never thought, yeah, because I mean, I've gone to the estate sales to look for the old good sewing machines, like the pure metal honkers that just go forever and ever. I never thought to look at it for that system. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You find it a lot, and you probably have seen it and just overlooked it and didn't pay attention to it.
very possibly, yeah, especially if they had a good sewing machine. We did have a question come up. Mina, does Mina have a fashion show with her amazing designs, geometric sleeves, etc., or is it just experimentation for herself and her students?
Well, not fashion shows, but sometimes fashion shoots. Because I have a friend who's a fashion photographer, so sometimes we do some photo shoots where we use my clothes, and then there's a professional model, and then everybody gets something for their portfolio, and then these have been published in some online fashion magazines as well. So it's very fun. Now
Yeah,
I
I
actually want to do something again because it's been a while. In fact, this painted thing is going to be one.
It'll be exciting to see, follow you on socials and be able to see the new stuff that comes up, right?
Yeah, I wanted to find a way to combine because I studied at an art academy last year, so I kind of want to do something that combines the two worlds.
Awesome.
Mm.
I love that. We did have a VIP question come in that says, what is the best, easiest way to change a men's shirt pattern from a fitted shirt to a unisex shirt? Millie, this is a hard question to answer because I feel like, are you talking like a button-up shirt or are you talking like a regular t-shirt? Men's shirt pattern. I would think you're talking about a button-up. And I always hate the unisex shirts. I don't feel like they fit anybody well because when you say, oh, this can go for either men or women, you have to think women a lot of times have a bust that has a larger circumference. That if you're trying to put that exact same shirt on a men, it's really hard to make them work proportionally, in my opinion. So I guess, are you trying to get a shirt pattern to go for a woman to go for because I see it is a button up that you were looking at. Um, but I'm just kind of curious like what the full end goal would be, is just so that you had like a basic shirt that you could start off to pattern from, or they're probably typing away. Does anyone else have any thoughts on going from a fitted shirt to a unisex shirt? Am I the crazy one? I always feel like when you have a unisex shirt, it's always there's always so many issues that you have to kind of refit it into something. Um,
Yeah, I find that when I'm altering a unisex shirt, it's a lot of alterations to make it look flattering on the female figures. And you got to add darts or princess seams or something so it's not so boxy and just plain. But
yeah.
I mean, that can be fun for some. The challenge of adding all of those things to give it a pretty shape or pretty fit. flattering fit rather.
Yeah, I feel like it gets very tent shaped very quickly. But it also depends on what your end goal is that you're looking for.
True, because you can take that same shirt and make a really cute tent dress really
Exactly.
easily, really quickly, and super cute. And then add one of Mina's funky ruffled sleeves. Yeah. And then you have like a really dope dress. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
That's
actually
that's like
also seen shirts where people have simply like sewn tucks at the waist, so they become like a design detail, while at the same time taking in the fabric at the waist.
Yeah.
But if that's not what you want to be making, then it's
Yeah.
not gonna work.
Yeah. I feel like we might be designing away from what Millie's looking for. Um, but yeah, my answer is there's not a really great way to get a really great pattern from a men's fitted shirt to just go for a unisex um look, I guess. So awesome. We have basically a statement. I love all the classes today. I would like to see more examples of slash and spread in patterns. Yes, I love slash and spread so much. I am sure you can find tons and tons of more examples on YouTube. I know I have some on my YouTube channel on how to do some slash and spread digitally. I'm sure these ladies probably have some as well. Um, Anybody?
Well, I use slash and spread all the time to add volume, like if you want to do like a flounce like
Yep.
details. And yeah, I've probably done it several times. If you look at my Instagram where I post patterns, maybe you can get some ideas from there.
Yeah. There's lots and lots of fun slash and spreads. I don't know. I love I love doing it. You gotta make some really funky stuff, adding in
Yeah.
fabrics and in different ways. Awesome. We had one more come in. As a newbie, could some of you speak to the decision to spend time altering existing clothes that are actually too small for me now, but are made from great material, to just starting fresh? Does anyone want to start with that one? So
I
that
think it
that can be a tricky thing, because it depends on how much you love the clothes that you'd be altering. Because there's, only so much you can do for altering smaller clothes to make them fit a larger person. And a lot of times it means you're adding in fabric somewhere, or um but you're adding in fabric, or you're cutting it to become so that it's not fully closed. So then you'd have to still find really nice fabric that meshes and do all that stuff. One thing that I know can be true is sometimes it's easier to start from scratch than to completely deconstruct something and reconstruct something. I know, like, sometimes we were talking about a wedding dress earlier. Sometimes people come in with crazy wedding dress things and they're like, oh, I love this wedding dress, but it's, 10 sizes too small for me. Can we make it bigger to fit me? And it's like, we could probably make it from scratch faster than I could deconstruct and change that pattern. But it also depends on that sentimental value of what you want out of that. So that's a hard question to answer. Does anyone else have some thoughts on it?
I
Well,
agree. It's hard because when you're making it bigger, like you said, you've got to add fabric. And that's the hard part, finding a fabric that's going to beautifully blend with what's already there. Now, if you are a super creative, you can do something funky and have a contrasting fabric or something just totally opposite. If you're up for the challenge of taking something totally different and making it work with the existing fabric, you can do that. But it is a lot of work. takes a lot of I want to say planning, but a lot of thought, being very intentional in where you're placing, or where you're opening, and making it larger or whatever. So it can be a lot of work, but it can also be a lot of fun. If you're up for the challenge, it can be a fun project, a fun project, something to do.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah,
to do something completely different, you can use the fabric. Like if you have a skirt, you could use it for like making a peplum for a top. If you have another top, that you can use the upper part and then like combine. I don't know, but if you want to keep the same garment and just make it bigger, then you need other material to add.
it does seem like the concept of like the thrift flip that's really popular, altering an existing piece of clothing versus starting from scratch, are kind of just two completely different skills. And I think you kind of need to look at like how your brain functions and how you enter a project the best way. Because I think for some people, starting from scratch is really overwhelming, looking at a blank piece of fabric. And for them, if they look at a already completed garment, they're much better able to come up with creative solutions to alter that garment. And then other people, and like this is the way my brain is, when I look at an already completed garment, I see no options. And so my brain just kind of shuts down, and I can't think of any creative solutions to make that into something different or something that's going to fit. Whereas I see all the options when I look at a blank piece of fabric. So you kind of have to consider how your brain functions and how you approach projects and what creates an entry point for you. It might be easier to alter the clothes, but if you're looking at your own clothes and you're not having any ideas, then that might just not be the way that your creativity works, and it might be way easier to just start from scratch.
Yeah. That's so true. I think my brain doesn't work that way either. I see a finished garment and I'm like, I don't know how to add to it or change it necessarily. So, um, they did respond. I think it's just nice material like wool and silk. I don't have the skills yet to recreate, and these bins take up space. So what to do with these nice materials? Yeah, it's a hard choice and it can go either way. You can always give it a try once or twice and see if see if you're loving what's coming out or if you're getting frustrated. Donation is also there. Sometimes I hate saying that, but it's like I've had to donate some of the stuff that I'm like, I love this, but it's like I'm never gonna wear it. Let somebody else love it and wear it instead of letting it just hang in my closet. And then we have a start from scratch because it will just look like you tried to make it bigger. I don't think that's necessarily true. Because there are definitely amazing ways that you can. Some people have some amazing thrifts of how they change stuff to make stuff look bigger. Um, but that's also why we talk about doing it with intention, doing it with very specific fabrics and all that stuff to marry everything. I mean, if you just cut open your side seams and put a muslin strip down the side seams, that's what it's going to look like. But um, I truly do believe that you can do it with intention and it won't look like you just made it try to look bigger. Awesome. Well, I think that is most of the questions that have come in. Facebook still says we're live, but nobody can find us live on Facebook. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. The tech in this month has been very fun to deal with. But I'll make sure I got it shared for YouTube, so I hope you guys found us on YouTube. Do you guys want to say anything else before we sign off?
Well, I always like to encourage people to do experiments because it's the best way to learn. And if you work on half scale, you can do whatever you want because you don't have to think about how practical something is going to be or where you're going to wear it because you're not going to be wearing it because it's in half scale. And they can also be partial experiments. I always do just the front part, just one sleeve.
Yeah,
It's very
love it.
fun.
And you should share where you got your half scale because I'd be interested to check it out.
Yeah. Where do I share it?
Just in the Facebook group, just make a
Okay.
post and be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is where I got my half scale if you guys are interested.
Yes.
I have a half scale, but it's, I'm always, I'm a hoarder. I'm a problem child with sewing and crafting. I'm Charlie's terrible person who buys stuff and doesn't always use it practically or quickly. I use it practically, but it does take a little bit. So,
Yeah, I'm like that with books. I
oh
no
yeah,
longer
that
have
too.
space for books, so now I'm trying not to buy any new ones.
Yeah, it's hard. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for taking your time to spend this hour with us answering some questions and hanging out. And thank you so much for your presentations. I've really enjoyed watching them myself and learning stuff from each one of you. So if you guys have any more questions, definitely keep posting them in the Facebook group. We'll be in there looking and trying to get everything answered for you quickly. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.